The Story of a Soul, the Autobiography of the Little Flower. Prologue. Louis-Joseph Stanislaus Martin was born on the 22nd of August, 1823, at Bordeaux, the son of the captain of the garrison there. At the age of 20, he sought admission to the hospice of Mount Joux, the great St. Bernard hermitage in the Pennine Alps, but this entry was postponed. At about the same time, Zélie Guérin, a lace maker of Alencourt in Normandy, attempted to join the Sisters of Charity, but she too returned home. When her sister entered the Visitation Convent at Le Mans, she resolved on marriage, and prayed for many children, all of whom might be consecrated to God. On the 12th of July, 1858, she married Louis Martin in the church of Notre Dame at Alencourt, and together they lived in an exemplary Catholic life. Zélie's prayers were answered, for they had 9 children. 4 died at an early age, but of the rest, 1 entered the Visitation Convent at Seine, and the remaining 4 the Carmel of Lisieux. Marie-Françoise Thérèse, their 9th child, was born at Alencourt on the 2nd of January 1873, after a series of prayers for a son. She was baptized 2 days later in the church of Notre Dame, her eldest sister Marie being her godmother. 4 years later, her mother died, and the whole family moved to Lisieux. It was there that she passed her childhood. At 15, she became Sœur Thérèse de l'Enfant Jésus in the Carmel there, where she remained until her death at the age of 24. She was canonized on May 17, 1925. Her autobiography was written under obedience, and it was only after her death that it was decided to let it pass beyond the walls of the Carmel. It is interesting to note her views on the undesirability of a nun writing her memoirs. To one who expressed a wish to do so, she replied, "Mind you do nothing of the sort. You cannot do it without permission, and I advise you not to ask. For myself, I should not like to write anything about my life without an express order, and one which I had not solicited. It is more humble not to write anything about oneself. The great graces of one's life, such as one's vocation, cannot be forgotten. The memory of those graces will avail you more if you confine yourself to going over them in your mind than if you write them down." She used to tell her novices to have beautiful and holy thoughts, and to write books or lives of the saints do not count so much as answering as soon as you are called. She showed reluctance when, in 1894, her second sister, Mother Agnes of Jesus, then prioress, asked her to write down memories of her childhood. She began, however, at once, using a cheap exercise book, writing without plan nor division, and only during the scanty free time allowed to Carmelites by their rule. This first part of her autobiography, begun towards the end of 1894, was completed on January 21st, 1896, on the feast of St. Agnes. Mother Marie de Gonzague, prioress at the time of her entry, was re-elected that year, the year in which Sister Thérèse began to show signs of her fatal disease. At the request of Mother Agnes, she was told to complete her story. This time she wrote more slowly and very large at times, scarcely able to hold her pen, but still without method or revision. The last lines of this second part had to be written in pencil when she became too exhausted. even to dip her pen in the inkpot. This was in June and July of 1897. Her eldest sister, Marie of the Sacred Heart, had asked her the previous year to write something concerning her spirituality, and it was for her, again only under obedience, that she wrote the third part, a vindication of the value of supernatural life. This was in September of 1896. The whole work was quite spontaneous. We may say that she did not so much write a book as live it, and then it wrote itself. Since its first publication, the appeal of the autobiography has been universal, and the demand for it prodigious. The new Saint Therese, said Pope Pius XI in the homily of the Mass of Canonization, was penetrated with the gospel teaching and put it into practice in her daily life. Yet more, she taught the way of spiritual childhood by her words and example to the novices of her monastery, and she has revealed it to all by her writings, which have been spread all over the world, and which none can read without returning and rereading them with great profit. The Sacred Congregation of Rites in 1921 stated that in the autobiography which Saint Therese wrote by order of her superiors, we find a fact as wonderful as it is universal, that is to say, the abundant fruit which is derived from the reading of this attractive and fascinating biography, effects which far exceed the narrow limits of the merely human. In fact, this reading moves the hearts of men, inclines their wills, amends their lives, kindles charity, and produces other salutary results, which absolutely transcend human power, and can find no adequate explanation except in the action of divine grace itself. Of the rest, to the time of her death, she may speak for herself.